Hello, dear listener. Where are you right now? Perhaps in your bed, with the soft light of night filtering through the window, or maybe in a comfortable armchair, enveloped by the reassuring silence of home. What time is it where you are? And how do you feel now, in this precise instant when our minds connect through these words? While you listen to me, something extraordinary is happening inside your skull. Billions of neurons are dancing in invisible choreography, weaving the threads of this experience into your memory. Every word I speak, every pause I make, every inflection in my voice is being captured, processed, and perhaps stored forever in the labyrinths of your mind. Have you ever wondered how this is possible? How is it that this moment, you, me, these words floating in the air, can transform into a memory that you'll carry tomorrow, next week, or perhaps for your entire life? How is it that your brain, a 3-pound mass composed mainly of water and fat, can create something as ethereal and powerful as a memory? Tonight, I invite you on an intimate journey through the most mysterious corridors of the human mind. Let's explore together the most fascinating and complex phenomenon we know, how the brain forms new memories. It's a silent dance between electricity and chemistry, a symphony of connections that happens thousands of times per second. Even now, as you breathe softly and accompany me in this contemplation, imagine for a moment that your mind is like an infinite library, but a very special library. Unlike conventional libraries where books are already written and organized, your mental library is constantly being built. New volumes are added every second. Pages are rewritten. Chapters are reorganized. And some works are delicately archived in deeper sections, while others remain always at hand on the shelves of consciousness. The process of forming a memory is like watching a book being written in real time. The moment you experience something, the taste of a sweet strawberry, the aroma of rain on asphalt, the soft touch of fabric, or even this voice that now resonates in your ears, millions of neurons activate in unique and specific patterns. It's as if each experience had its own electrical signature, a neuronal Morse code that your brain learns to recognize and reproduce. Have you noticed how certain memories seem to form instantly, while others fade like smoke? Why can you remember perfectly the melody of a song you heard only once, but forget where you left your keys 5 minutes ago? The answer lies in the selective and profoundly human nature of the memorization process. Right now, as your eyelids begin to feel heavy and your breathing becomes deeper and more regular, your brain is making unconscious decisions about what deserves to be preserved from this experience. Maybe it's my voice. Maybe it's a specific word that resonates with something in your soul. Or maybe it's simply this sensation of tranquility and curiosity you're feeling now. What's fascinating is that you have no conscious control over this process. You can't simply decide, I'm going to remember this, and guarantee that the memory will form. Likewise, you can't decide to forget something and make it disappear completely. Memory formation is an automatic ancestral process that evolved over millions of years to help us survive, learn, and connect with each other. There's an almost magical quality in how memories emerge from neural activity. It's as if consciousness were a garden where thoughts and memories naturally sprout from the fertile soil of experience. Each lived moment plants a seed that can germinate into memory, blooming in our mind when we least expect it. Have you ever wondered why certain memories resurface at specific moments? Why the aroma of baking bread can instantly transport you to your grandmother's kitchen? Or why a song on the radio can revive a summer afternoon from your youth? These phenomena reveal the deeply associative nature of human memory, where each experience is connected to a complex network of other experiences, creating a rich and interconnected tapestry of meaning. Allow me to take you now inside this extraordinary theater that is your brain. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that you're floating, tiny as a grain of sand, through the moist and pulsating corridors of your own mind. Around you, a metropolis of activity bustles in absolute silence. You're witnessing the exact moment when an experience transforms into memory. It's like watching the birth of a star, but on a microscopic scale. Each neuron is a small illuminated city, and the connections between them are like roads of light that switch on and off in a coordinated and hypnotizing dance. When you hear my voice now, sound waves travel through the air to your ears, where they're converted into electrical impulses. These impulses race like rays of light through specific neural networks, first reaching the auditory cortex, where the sound is decoded and interpreted. But the journey is just beginning. Have you ever thought about how your brain knows that this voice is different from all the other voices you've ever heard? How does it manage in fractions of a second to categorize, compare, and contextualize this new information with all the auditory experiences you've accumulated throughout your life? The secret lies in what neuroscientists call synaptic plasticity, the extraordinary capacity that connections between neurons have to strengthen or weaken based on experience. Imagine that each synaptic connection is like a trail in a forest. When you walk through a new trail for the first time, it's just a subtle marking between the trees. But if you continue passing through there repeatedly, the trail becomes more defined, easier to follow, more permanent. This is exactly what happens in your brain when a memory forms. The moment you experience something new, specific groups of neurons activate together. If this experience is significant, whether through its emotional intensity, its novelty, or its relevance to your survival, these neural connections strengthen. It's as if your brain said, "This is important. I need to remember this." The hippocampus, a curved structure that looks like a seahorse and is nestled deep in the center of the brain, acts as the director of this orchestra of memories. It doesn't store the memories themselves, but coordinates where and how they're archived in the cerebral cortex. It's like a master librarian who knows exactly where each book should be placed and how to find it when needed. But there's something even more magical happening in this process. When you form a new memory, your brain doesn't simply record the information like a digital recorder would. Instead, it reconstructs the experience using the same neural circuits that were activated during the original event. It's as if, to remember the smell of roses, your brain partially reactivated the same areas that were stimulated when you actually smelled a rose. This means that remembering is, literally, reliving. It's not a passive reproduction of archived data, but an active and creative reconstruction of experience. And here lies one of the most beautiful and disturbing truths about human memory. Every time you remember something, you're, in a way, slightly altering that memory. Imagine the cerebral cortex as a vast mountainous landscape, where each specialized region processes different aspects of reality. The visual cortex transforms light patterns into understandable images, the auditory cortex interprets air vibrations as meaningful sounds, and the somatosensory cortex translates pressures and temperatures into tactile sensations. All this information converges simultaneously to the hippocampus, which acts as a conductor coordinating the sensory symphony. During memory formation, the hippocampus doesn't just receive information from these different cortical regions. It also sends signals back as if it were saying, "Maintain this specific configuration, it's important." It's a constant dialogue between different parts of the brain, a silent conversation that determines which aspects of our experience will be preserved for the future. Have you ever noticed how it's possible to feel a memory forming? Those moments when you have the clear intuition that you're living something that will become an important memory? That sensation isn't imagination, it's your consciousness capturing the neural signals that indicate your brain is actively encoding the experience for long-term storage. Now, I invite you to dive even deeper to the molecular level of this dance of memory. Imagine that you can see neurotransmitters, those small messenger molecules that carry information from one neuron to another. They're like soap bubbles floating in a golden liquid, each carrying a specific message, a note in the symphony of consciousness. Have you ever wondered why some experiences instantly engrave themselves in our memory, while others simply evaporate? The answer lies in a complex and elegant chemical dance that happens at the most fundamental level of neural life. When something emotionally significant happens, a first kiss, the birth of a child, or even this intimate conversation we're having now, your brain releases a cascade of chemical substances. Dopamine, known as the pleasure neurotransmitter, spreads like liquid gold through neural networks, marking the experience as important and pleasurable. Noradrenaline, in turn, acts like a biological spotlight, increasing your attention and making you more receptive to the details of the experience. This is why you can remember with crystal clarity where you were when you heard important news, but can't remember what you had for lunch last Tuesday. But perhaps most fascinating is the role of acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that acts as a kind of neural ink. When acetylcholine levels are high, the synaptic connections being activated at that moment become more likely to strengthen permanently. It's as if acetylcholine were saying, "Pay attention, what's happening now is worth remembering." And then there's GABA, the brain's main inhibitory neurotransmitter. While other neurotransmitters stimulate and excite, GABA calms and filters. It acts like a careful editor, deciding which information deserves to pass forward and which should be gently discarded. It's GABA that allows you to focus on this conversation without being constantly distracted by the 1,000 other stimuli that bombard your senses every moment. There's a poetic beauty in this chemistry of memory. Your brain isn't simply a biological computer processing data. It's more like a sensitive artist, painting your experiences with different emotional tonalities and creating a unique work of art that is your personal story. Consider for a moment the most precious memory you have. Maybe it's the face of someone you love or a moment of pure happiness in your childhood. That memory doesn't exist as a static file somewhere in your brain. Instead, it's a living network of connections that spreads across different brain regions, the hippocampus guarding the spatial and temporal context, the amygdala preserving the emotional content, the visual cortex maintaining the images, the auditory cortex holding the sounds. When you access that memory, all these regions reactivate in a coordinated symphony, like musicians in an orchestra playing their individual parts to create a complete melody. And every time you do this, every time you relive that memory, the connections become a little stronger, a little more defined. It's a constant refinement process, like a sculptor working on a masterpiece, removing excesses and accentuating important details. Your most precious memories become more vivid and detailed over time, not because you're adding new information, but because you're strengthening the connections that already exist. The chemical process of memory also involves specialized proteins that act as molecular builders. When an experience is considered significant, specific genes are activated, producing proteins that literally reconstruct synapses, making them larger, more efficient, more permanent. It's as if each important memory left a physical mark on brain tissue, a microscopic scar that tells the story of who you are. Serotonin, another crucial neurotransmitter, acts as a mood modulator that profoundly influences how memories are formed and accessed. When your serotonin levels are balanced, you're more capable of forming positive memories and accessing happy recollections. When they're imbalanced, the world can seem darker, and negative memories can dominate your conscious experience. Have you noticed how on days when you feel good, it's easier to remember happy moments? And how on difficult days, sad memories seem more accessible? This isn't coincidence, it's the chemistry of memory in action, demonstrating how our present emotional state influences which memories emerge into consciousness. There's something profoundly mysterious about how our brain manages to organize our experiences in time. Have you noticed how you know, intuitively, that your childhood came before adolescence? That yesterday preceded today, and that this moment will become past in a few instants? This ability to situate events on a timeline is one of the most sophisticated achievements of the human mind. The hippocampus, which we mentioned earlier, is much more than a simple archivist of memories. It's also our temporal navigator, creating what neuroscientists call cognitive maps, internal representations of space and time that allow us to navigate both the physical world and the landscape of our memories. Imagine that your hippocampus is like a tireless cartographer, constantly drawing maps of your experiences. When you walk through a new city, it's mapping the streets, visual references, the sequence of places you visit. But simultaneously, it's creating a temporal map, marking when each experience happened in relation to others. Have you ever wondered why it's easier to remember events that happened in significant places? Why a conversation in your childhood garden remains more vivid than a similar conversation in an anonymous room? The answer lies in how the brain integrates spatial and temporal information in constructing memories. The hippocampus contains very special cells called place cells and time cells. Place cells activate when you're in specific locations, like an internal GPS. Time cells, discovered more recently, create activity patterns that mark different moments and durations. Together, these cells create a spatiotemporal matrix where your memories are anchored. This is why when you return to a place from your childhood, memories you thought you'd forgotten can resurface with surprising clarity. The place functions as a key that unlocks an entire constellation of associated memories. But there's something even more fascinating. The brain doesn't just record when something happened, but also predicts when similar things might happen in the future. Your memories aren't just records of the past. They're tools for navigating the future. When you learn that the oven is hot and burns your hand, your brain doesn't just form a memory of that specific event. It creates a prediction pattern that will help you avoid similar situations in the future. Memory becomes a form of anticipatory intelligence. This predictive aspect of memory reveals something profound about the nature of human consciousness. We are beings who live simultaneously in the past, present, and future. Our memories of the past inform our perception of the present and our expectations about the future. It's a complex temporal dance that happens automatically, without us realizing it. While you listen to me now, your brain is not only forming memories of this experience, but also making predictions about how it will unfold. Based on your past experiences with similar conversations, books you've read, or voices you've heard, your mind is already anticipating, creating expectations, preparing for what comes next. There's a mathematical elegance in how the brain organizes time. Studies reveal that groups of neurons in the hippocampus fire in specific sequences that correspond to temporal intervals, some marking seconds, others minutes, still others longer periods. It's as if each temporal scale had its own set of neural clocks. Have you noticed how time seems to pass more slowly during intense or dangerous experiences? During these moments, your brain dramatically increases the temporal resolution of your perception, capturing more details per unit of time. This is why car accidents seem to happen in slow motion. Your brain is literally processing more temporal information during these critical moments. Time perception also changes with age, and this is intimately related to memory formation. When we're children, almost everything is new and worthy of attention, so we form many detailed memories, making short periods seem very rich and long in recollection. As we age and fall into routines, we form fewer distinct memories, making time seem to accelerate. Here we arrive at one of the most counterintuitive and beautiful aspects of human memory, the vital importance of forgetting. In a culture obsessed with information preservation, where every photo, every message, every moment can be digitally archived forever, it's revolutionary to realize that forgetting is not a system failure, but an essential and beneficial characteristic of the human mind. Have you ever imagined what it would be like to live if you could never forget anything? If every detail of every day remained eternally vivid in your consciousness? There's a rare medical condition called hyperthymesia, where people remember practically every day of their lives with extraordinary detail. At first glance, it might seem like a superpower, but in reality it can be an oppressive and exhausting experience. Forgetting is like a careful gardener who prunes a tree. By removing unnecessary branches, it allows the tree to grow stronger and more beautiful. Similarly, when your brain forgets irrelevant details, it's freeing mental resources to process and store more important information. During sleep, particularly during REM phase, your brain conducts a delicate and intelligent cleanup. Synaptic connections that were little used during the day are weakened, while important memories are consolidated and transferred to long-term storage. It's as if, each night, an invisible curator reorganized the art gallery of your mind, deciding which works deserve permanent exhibition and which can be gently retired. But forgetting isn't just functional, it's also deeply emotional and psychological. The ability to forget traumas, heartaches, and pain is what allows us to move forward, heal, and grow. If we remembered forever, with total intensity, every moment of suffering we've ever experienced, it would be impossible to live with joy and hope. There's a biological wisdom in forgetting that reflects a fundamental truth about human nature. We are beings of constant transformation. We're not the same as yesterday, and we won't be the same tomorrow. Forgetting allows us to reinvent ourselves, let go of old versions of ourselves, and embrace growth and change. Think about your childhood memories. You probably remember specific moments, a special birthday, the first day of school, playing in the park. But you've forgotten thousands of other moments, ordinary meals, casual conversations, ordinary days. And this is beautiful because what remained were the moments that, in some way, were significant in shaping you into the person you are today. Forgetting also enables forgiveness, both forgiveness of others and self-forgiveness. When the rough edges of an argument soften over time, when the intensity of hurt diminishes, it's not because you're denying what happened, but because your brain is naturally processing and integrating the experience in a way that allows healing. There's a subtle but important difference between forgetting and being forgotten. When you forget, it's an active and healthy process of mental curation. When something is forgotten, for not being considered important at the moment of encoding, it's simply because it didn't cross the necessary threshold to become a lasting memory. And there's something poetically appropriate in the fact that, while we talk about memory and forgetting, your own brain is already making these choices. Some of the words I speak will fade like smoke, while others, perhaps a phrase that resonates with your personal experience, or an idea that challenges your way of thinking, will engrave themselves more deeply. The active forgetting process happens on multiple temporal scales. There's immediate forgetting, where irrelevant information is filtered almost instantly. There's short-term forgetting, where memories that aren't reinforced fade within minutes or hours. And there's long-term forgetting, a gradual process where even established memories can become less accessible over time. Curiously, the brain has specific mechanisms to promote active forgetting. Neurotransmitters like dopamine not only facilitate memory formation, but can also signal when it's appropriate to let certain information fade. It's as if the brain had an automatic cleaning system, constantly evaluating which memories deserve to be kept and which can be discarded. Have you noticed how sometimes we struggle to forget something painful, but the more we try not to think about it, the more vivid the memory becomes? This happens because the act of trying to forget requires that we first access the memory, which paradoxically strengthens it. Healthy forgetting isn't a forced process, but rather a gradual relaxation of attention, allowing non-essential memories to fade naturally. Memory is not a single, monolithic entity, but rather a diverse family of processes, each with its own characteristics, temporalities, and functions. It's like discovering that what you thought was a single star in the night sky is, in fact, a complex constellation of distinct but interconnected celestial bodies. Let's begin with the most fleeting and delicate memory, sensory memory. This is the type of memory that lasts only a few seconds and captures raw sensory impressions before they're consciously processed. When you turn your head quickly and can still see a residual image of what you were looking at, or when you hear echoes of a melody for a few moments after the music stops, you're experiencing sensory memory. It's as if your senses had a camera with a slow shutter, capturing traces of light from experiences that move through your consciousness. Most of these impressions fade quickly, but some are selected for additional processing. Next, we have working memory, the illuminated stage of consciousness where the drama of thought unfolds. This is the memory you use when you try to remember a phone number between the moment you hear it and the moment you dial it, or when you mentally manipulate information to solve a problem. Working memory is notoriously limited. You can only maintain about 7 items of information at a time, but it's incredibly flexible and dynamic. It's like having a mental workbench where you can place different elements, reorganize them, combine them in new and creative ways. Have you noticed how your ability to concentrate diminishes when your working memory is overloaded? When you're trying to remember too many things at once, your capacity to process new information decreases significantly. This is why making a list or writing down important thoughts can be so liberating. You're externalizing part of your working memory load. Long-term memory is where things get really interesting. It divides into several subcategories, each with its own fascinating characteristics. Explicit or declarative memory is composed of memories you can consciously access and describe. It includes episodic memories, recollections of specific events from your life, and semantic memories, your general knowledge about the world. When you remember your first day of work, you're accessing an episodic memory. When you know that Paris is the capital of France, you're using semantic memory. The difference isn't just academic. These different types of memory are processed by different neural networks and can be affected in distinct ways by brain injuries or diseases. But perhaps most fascinating is implicit memory, the vast submerged ocean of knowledge that guides our behavior without us consciously realizing it. When you ride a bicycle, type on a keyboard, or recognize a facial expression, you're using implicit memory. This is the memory of the body, the memory of habits, the memory of skills. It's deeply rooted and resistant to forgetting. Once you learn to swim or drive, that knowledge stays with you even after years without practice. It's as if these memories were engraved not just in the brain, but also in muscles, reflexes, and the very structure of your being. There's also prospective memory, our ability to remember to do things in the future. When you remember to take medicine at 8 o'clock or to call a friend on the weekend, you're using prospective memory. It's a sophisticated form of memory that requires not just storing information, but also monitoring time and context to know when to access that information. Autobiographical memory deserves special attention. It's composed of memories that form the continuous narrative of who you are. They're not just facts about your life, but a curated collection of experiences that define your personal identity. These memories are often emotionally charged and intimately connected with your sense of self. Interestingly, different types of memory can be affected independently by injuries or diseases. A person might lose the ability to form new episodic memories, anterograde amnesia, but maintain intact semantic and implicit memory. Another individual might lose old autobiographical memories, retrograde amnesia, but continue to be able to learn new skills. There's also emotional memory, processed mainly by the amygdala, which can operate independently of other memory systems. This is why you might have a strong emotional reaction to a situation without being able to consciously remember why. Your emotional memory remembers even when your conscious memory can't access the details. There's a truth we all know intuitively, but which science has only recently begun to understand completely. Our most vivid and lasting memories are those tinged with emotion. It's not neutral and objective facts that engrave themselves most deeply in our minds, but rather those moments charged with feeling, joy, sadness, fear, wonder, love. The amygdala, two small almond-shaped structures located in the limbic system, acts as the emotional director of memory formation. When you experience something emotionally significant, the amygdala sends chemical signals to the hippocampus, essentially saying, "This is important, pay special attention." This is why you can remember with crystal clarity where you were when you heard shocking news, but can't remember what you wore last Tuesday? Emotion functions as a biological marker of importance, an automatic prioritization system that decides which experiences deserve to be preserved with high fidelity. Have you noticed how different emotions seem to create different textures of memory? Happy memories tend to be bright and expansive, as if filmed with a wide-angle lens in high definition. Sad memories, on the other hand, can seem more focused, more intimate, with an almost cinematic quality of emotional close-up. Fear memories have a unique quality. They're often fragmented but intense. The brain in alarm state focuses on details relevant to survival, creating memories that can be both vivid and incomplete. It's an evolutionary strategy. Perfectly remembering what can hurt us is more important than remembering all contextual details. But there's something even deeper happening in the interaction between emotion and memory. Our memories don't just carry emotional information. They also influence our present emotional state. When you remember a happy moment, the same neural networks associated with happiness partially reactivate. It's literally possible to feel better simply by remembering good times. This reveals a crucial adaptive function of emotional memory. It doesn't just serve to archive the past, but to inform and regulate our present and future emotions. Your memories of past success can give you confidence to face present challenges. Your memories of overcoming can give you strength during difficult times. There's a fascinating phenomenon called mood-dependent memory. You're more likely to remember information you learned while in a certain emotional state when you're again in that same state. It's as if different moods open different libraries of memories. This explains why a song can instantly transport you back to a specific moment in the past, complete with all the emotions you were feeling at that time. The music doesn't just evoke the memory, it recreates the emotional state that was present when the memory was formed. And there's a particular beauty in how emotional memories can transform over time. An experience that was painful in the moment can, with the passage of years, become a source of wisdom and strength, not because the facts changed, but because our emotional relationship with those facts evolved. Time, in combination with other experiences and personal growth, can recontextualize our memories. What was once only pain can also become growth. What was once only loss can also become gratitude for what was lived. Our memories, like ourselves, are dynamic and capable of transformation. Traumatic memories represent a special case in the emotional architecture of memory. When an experience is extremely stressful or threatening, it can be encoded in a fragmented and intense way that makes its normal processing difficult. It's as if the experience were too hot to be handled by normal memory mechanisms, resulting in recollections that can be simultaneously too vivid and too incomplete. Fortunately, the brain has healing mechanisms. With time, therapy, and sometimes medication, traumatic memories can be gradually integrated in a healthier way. The process doesn't erase the memory, but allows it to be stored in a way that doesn't cause continuing suffering. There's also the phenomenon of flashbulb memory, extremely vivid memories of emotionally significant moments. You probably have some of these memories, where you were when you heard about an important historical event, or the exact moment you received news that changed your life. These memories feel photographically precise, although research shows they can be as subject to distortion as any other memory. There's a fascinating temporal dance that happens after the initial moment of memory formation. It's not an instantaneous process like taking a photograph and immediately filing it away. Instead, it's more like planting a seed that needs time, care, and the right conditions to grow and establish itself permanently in the garden of the mind. The memory consolidation process happens in waves, in overlapping temporal layers. There's synaptic consolidation, which occurs minutes and hours after the initial experience. When neural connections that were activated during learning strengthen through complex biochemical changes, imagine that each synapse is like a bridge between two neural islands. When you learn something new, these bridges are initially fragile, built with temporary materials. During synaptic consolidation, these temporary bridges are replaced with more permanent and robust structures. But there's also systemic consolidation, a much longer process that can take weeks, months, or even years. During this period, memories gradually become less dependent on the hippocampus and more integrated into the cerebral cortex. It's as if the memory were being transferred from a temporary file to a permanent storage system. Have you noticed how recent memories are more vulnerable to interference and forgetting? If you learn a list of words and are immediately distracted by a different task, you're more likely to forget the original list. But if you had time to sleep on the information, it becomes more resistant to interference. Sleep plays an absolutely crucial role in this process. During sleep, particularly during deep sleep phases, your brain rehearses and strengthens memories formed during the day. It's as if, while your consciousness rests, a night maintenance crew worked tirelessly to organize, archive, and strengthen the day's experiences. During REM sleep, when dreams are most vivid, something even more interesting happens. Your brain doesn't just consolidate individual memories, but also explores connections between different memories, creating innovative associations and creative insights. This is why sometimes you sleep on a problem and wake up with a solution. Dreams can be seen as the brain's creative laboratory, where different memory elements are recombined in new and sometimes surprising ways. That feeling of having a brilliant idea in the middle of the night, or waking up with a solution to a problem that had been bothering you, isn't accidental. It's your brain actively working during sleep to integrate and reorganize your memories. But consolidation doesn't stop there. Every time you access a memory, it goes through a process called reconsolidation. It's as if, when opening a file, you temporarily put it in edit mode. During this period, the memory becomes malleable again and can be modified before being saved back to long-term storage. This means that your memories aren't static records of the past, but rather dynamic reconstructions that can be subtly altered each time you access them. It's simultaneously a vulnerability and a strength of the human memory system. The vulnerability lies in the fact that our memories can be influenced by our present emotions, by new information we acquire, or by external suggestions. This is why eyewitness testimony, even when given in good faith, can be surprisingly inaccurate. But the strength lies in the ability to update and recontextualize our past experiences in light of new understandings. This allows us to heal traumas, learn from mistakes, and integrate experiences in ways that promote growth and adaptation. During the consolidation process, different aspects of a memory can be preserved unequally. Peripheral details may fade while central elements become more pronounced. Colors can become more vivid, emotions can intensify, and context can simplify. It's as if the brain were a careful editor, refining each memory to preserve its most important essence. Stress can dramatically affect memory consolidation. Moderate stress levels can actually improve consolidation, helping to engrave important memories more deeply. But chronic or extreme stress can interfere with the process, leading to both poor formation of new memories and deterioration of existing memories. There are also circadian rhythms in memory consolidation. Certain phases of the sleep-wake cycle are more conducive to consolidating different types of memory. Motor skill memories are often consolidated during slow-wave sleep, while emotional memories may be processed mainly during REM sleep. There's an intimate and inseparable relationship between what we pay attention to and what we remember. Attention is like a spotlight of consciousness, illuminating some aspects of reality while leaving others in shadow. And it's precisely what is illuminated by this spotlight that has the greatest probability of transforming into lasting memory. Have you ever experienced being in a conversation but your mind wandering to other places? Later, when someone asks you about what was discussed, you realize you can't remember almost anything. It's not because your memory is failing. It's because your attention wasn't really present during the conversation. Attention functions as a highly selective filter that determines which of the countless stimuli bombarding our senses. Each moment deserves conscious processing. At any given moment, you're being exposed to thousands of sensory inputs, the sounds around you, the sensations on your skin, the images in your visual field, the aromas in the air. But you're only consciously aware of a tiny fraction of these stimuli. Imagine your attention as a film director who's constantly deciding where to position the camera, what to focus on, which details to highlight. These decisions determine not only what you consciously experience in the moment, but also what will be archived in your memory for future access. There's a fascinating phenomenon called inattentional blindness that dramatically demonstrates how attention and memory are interconnected. In famous experiments, people watching a video and focused on counting ball passes completely fail to notice a man dressed as a gorilla walking through the middle of the scene. It's not that they saw the gorilla and forgot. It's that they literally didn't see it because their attention was directed elsewhere. But attention isn't just a passive filter. It's also an active amplifier. When you deliberately direct your attention to something, you increase the probability that this information will be deeply processed and memorized. This is why mindfulness and meditation techniques can significantly improve memory. They train your ability to control and sustain attention. There are different types of attention, each with its own characteristics and effects on memory formation. Focused attention is like a laser, intensely concentrating on a specific aspect of experience. Divided attention tries to process multiple stimuli simultaneously, but generally results in weaker memories of each individual element. Sustained attention is the ability to maintain focus on something for extended periods, while alternating attention involves flexibly shifting focus between different tasks or stimuli. Each type of attention creates different textures of memory. Have you noticed how it's easier to remember information when you're genuinely interested in the subject? Interest isn't just a subjective preference. It's a neurobiological state that increases the release of dopamine and other neurotransmitters that facilitate memory formation. When something captures your genuine interest, your brain automatically allocates more attentional resources to process that information. This reveals an important truth about learning and memory. They're most effective when intrinsically motivated. Forcing yourself to pay attention to something that doesn't interest you might work temporarily, but rarely results in lasting and meaningful memories. And there's something even more subtle happening in the relationship between attention and memory. Not only does present attention influence what will be remembered, but our past memories also influence where we direct our attention in the present. It's a continuous feedback cycle where past and present inform each other mutually. Your previous experiences create expectations and attention patterns that influence how you perceive and interpret new experiences. If you've had positive experiences with a certain type of music, you're more likely to pay attention and form positive memories when you encounter similar music in the future. The modern digital era presents unique challenges to the relationship between attention and memory. We're constantly bombarded with information, notifications, and distractions that fragment our attention. This continuous partial attention can result in more superficial and less integrated memories. When you're simultaneously watching TV, checking your phone, and talking to someone, none of these activities receives full attention. As a result, you might vaguely remember each one, but no memory will be particularly rich or detailed. There's also the phenomenon of digital amnesia, our growing dependence on external devices to store information we once memorized naturally. Phone numbers, addresses, even the route to familiar places, much of this is now outsourced to our smartphones. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the relationship between attention and memory is how the quality of attention affects the quality of memory. Superficial and scattered attention produces fragmented and easily forgotten memories. Deep and sustained attention creates rich, detailed, and lasting memories. This is why moments of deep contemplation, when you're completely present and absorbed in an experience, often become especially vivid and meaningful memories. The quality of your attention at the moment of experience largely determines the quality of the memory you'll carry from that experience. Memory is not a static capacity that remains unchanged throughout life, like a river that changes its course according to the landscape through which it flows. Our memory capacities transform and evolve from birth to advanced age, each phase of life bringing its own unique and fascinating characteristics. In the first years of life, a child's brain is like an extraordinarily absorbent sponge. Neural connections form at a dizzying speed, up to 1 million new synapses per second during the most intense developmental periods. It's a period of unprecedented neural plasticity, where the brain is literally sculpting its architecture based on the experiences the child lives. Have you ever wondered why you can't remember your first years of life? This phenomenon, called infantile amnesia, doesn't happen because young children don't form memories. In fact, they're constantly learning and memorizing how to walk, talk, recognize faces, understand basic social rules. But these memories are mainly implicit, encoded in behavioral and emotional patterns rather than accessible conscious narratives. The hippocampus, crucial for forming explicit episodic memories, is still developing during the first years of life. It's as if the child were building the foundations of a sophisticated filing system, but hadn't yet developed the capacity to consciously catalog their experiences. As we grow, our memory capacities become more sophisticated and strategic. Adolescents develop the ability to use more complex memorization techniques, to integrate information from multiple sources, and to form rich and detailed autobiographical memories. It's during adolescence that many of our most vivid and lasting memories are formed, a phenomenon known as the reminiscence bump. There's something poetically appropriate in the fact that our formative years, when we're discovering who we are and what our place in the world is, are also the years when we form the memories that will accompany us forever. It's as if the brain intuitively recognized that these self-discovery experiences are fundamental to our identity and therefore deserve special preservation. In adulthood, although the pure speed of forming new neural connections may decrease, we develop something even more valuable, mnemonic wisdom. Adults become better at integrating new information with existing knowledge, at identifying meaningful patterns, and at using sophisticated mental organization strategies. It's as if, with experience, we became more skilled librarians of our own minds. We might not memorize random lists as quickly as when we were young, but we're much better at understanding and remembering information that's meaningful and relevant to our lives. And then there's aging, often feared for its supposed memory losses, but which in reality reveals fascinating aspects of continued brain plasticity. While certain memory capacities may diminish with age, particularly processing speed and working memory, others can actually improve. Older adults often demonstrate extraordinary crystallized wisdom, an ability to see patterns and connections that escape younger people. Their memories, while perhaps less precise in specific details, can be richer in meaning and emotional context. There's also a phenomenon called the positivity effect in aging, where older adults tend to remember more positive than negative information compared to younger adults. It's as if, with age, we developed an emotional wisdom that naturally filters and preserves experiences that contribute to well-being. The aging brain also demonstrates a surprising capacity for compensation. When certain neural networks become less efficient, other networks can be recruited to help. It's a testament to the continuous flexibility and adaptability of the human brain. Interestingly, different aspects of memory age at different rates. Episodic memory, recollections of specific events, tends to decline more with age, while semantic memory, general knowledge, remains relatively stable. Implicit memory, skills and habits, is often the most resistant to the effects of aging. During childhood and adolescence, the brain goes through multiple phases of synaptic pruning, where unnecessary connections are eliminated to make the system more efficient. It's as if the brain were constantly reorganizing its library, removing books that are no longer relevant and creating more space for important new knowledge. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections and reorganize existing circuits, continues throughout life, although it gradually decreases with age. Even in advanced age, new experiences can literally reshape the brain, creating new synapses and strengthening neural networks. Our memories don't exist in isolation. They're profoundly social, intertwined with the memories and narratives of other people. We are fundamentally social beings, and this is reflected in how we form, maintain, and share our memories. Have you noticed how a conversation with a childhood friend can bring back memories you thought you'd completely forgotten? Or how participating in a family reunion can result in a collective reconstruction of past events, where each person contributes different details to create a more complete narrative? This happens because many of our memories are socially distributed. We don't depend only on our own minds to preserve the past. We also depend on a social network of other people who shared these experiences with us. It's as if each relationship were a shared library of mutual memories. The phenomenon of transactive memory demonstrates how we naturally externalize part of our memory capacity to other people. In close relationships, we develop a tacit division of memory responsibilities. Maybe your partner is better at remembering important dates, while you're better at remembering conversation details. Together, you form a more robust memory system than either could form individually. But there's something even deeper happening in the social nature of memory. The stories other people tell about us can literally influence how we remember ourselves. When someone tells a story about something you did in the past, especially if this story is repeated multiple times, it can integrate into your own autobiographical narrative. This is why family stories are so powerful in identity formation. The narratives our parents tell about our childhood become an integral part of how we understand who we are. Some of these memories might even be of events that happened when we were too young to consciously remember, but which became ours through social repetition. Culture also acts as a massive collective memory system. Traditions, rituals, songs, and works of art serve as external repositories of shared memories that connect generations. When you participate in a cultural tradition, you're literally activating memories that have been preserved and transmitted for hundreds or thousands of years. Think about the power of a national anthem, a traditional recipe passed down through generations, or a family ritual. These cultural elements are memory vehicles that connect us not just with our own personal experience, but with the collective experience of our community and ancestors. The digital era has brought a completely new dimension to the social nature of memory. Social networks, digital photographs, archived messages, all these technologies create external records of our experiences that can influence and even replace our personal memories. Have you had the experience of seeing an old photo on Facebook and remembering details of an event you had completely forgotten? Or reading an old text conversation and realizing that your memory of what happened was different from what was actually said? These technologies are creating a hybrid form of memory, where internal and external elements mix in ways we're just beginning to understand. On one hand, we have access to more precise and detailed records of our experiences than any previous generation. On the other hand, We may be becoming dependent on these external records in a way that could be changing the fundamental nature of how we form and maintain personal memories. There's also the fascinating phenomenon of collective flashbulb memory, historically significant moments that become shared memories for an entire society. Major events like terrorist attacks, natural disasters, or moments of national celebration create memories that are simultaneously deeply personal. You remember where you were and what you were doing and universally shared. These collective memories serve as temporal anchor points for an entire generation, creating a sense of shared experience that strengthens social bonds and collective identity. Conversations also play a crucial role in memory formation and maintenance. When we tell our experiences to other people, we're not just sharing information, we're actively shaping and consolidating our own memories. The act of narrating an experience forces us to organize events into a coherent sequence, highlight important details, and integrate different aspects of experience into a unified story. It's interesting to note how our memories of events can gradually align with the versions we tell repeatedly. If you always tell a story in a particular way, emphasizing certain details and omitting others, your memory of the original event may eventually conform to the narrated version. There are also collaborative memories, where groups of people work together to reconstruct past events. Each person contributes fragments of the total experience, and together they create a collective memory that's more complete and detailed than any individual memory could be. This collaborative nature of human memory reveals something profound about our evolution as a social species. We're not just isolated individuals trying to navigate the world alone. We're part of an interconnected network of minds that share, preserve, and transmit experiences across time and space. There's a dimension of memory that transcends simple preservation of the past, its capacity to create, imagine, and innovate. Our memories aren't just static archives of what already happened. They're also the building blocks with which we create new worlds, new possibilities, new understandings. When you dream, your brain is using fragments of real memories to construct completely new and often fantastic narratives. It's as if your mind were a surrealist artist who takes familiar elements and recombines them in unexpected and creative ways. That strange dream where you were flying through your hometown, but it had mountains that don't exist in reality. Your brain took your memory of the city, your memory of mountains seen elsewhere, and your conceptual memory of flying and wove it all into a unique dream experience. But memory's creativity isn't limited to dreams. When you imagine the future, when you make plans, when you fantasize about possibilities, you're using your memory capacity in a prospective way. The same neural system that allows you to relive the past also allows you to pre-live the future. Have you noticed how your expectations about future events are colored by your memories of similar past experiences? When you imagine what your next vacation will be like, you're not creating that image from nothing. You're recombining elements from previous trips, places you've seen in photographs, stories you've heard from other people, and multiple other memory sources to construct an expectation of what's to come. This ability to use memory for mental simulation is one of the most extraordinary characteristics of human cognition. It allows you to test different scenarios mentally before acting, to learn from experiences you haven't had yet, to prepare for future challenges based on accumulated wisdom from the past. Artists, writers, inventors, and innovators from all fields depend profoundly on this creative function of memory. When a musician composes a new melody, they're recombining musical patterns stored in their memory in new ways. When a scientist formulates a new hypothesis, they're connecting disparate information from their memory in innovative forms. Creativity, far from being the opposite of memory, is actually its most sophisticated expression. It's the ability to see connections where others see separation, to find patterns in apparent randomness, to imagine possibilities that don't yet exist but could exist. There's a fascinating mental state that occurs when we're on the threshold between wakefulness and sleep, called the hypnagogic state, where the boundary between memory and imagination becomes especially fluid. Many famous scientific discoveries and creative insights have happened in this altered state of consciousness, where the mind is free from the restrictions of rigid logic and can make more fluid and creative associations. Salvador Dali famously used this state for his art, holding a key over a plate while dozing. When the key fell and made noise, he would wake up and immediately paint the images he had seen in that liminal state between dream and wakefulness. Creative memory also manifests in how we reconstruct and reinterpret our own past experiences. Every time we tell a story about something that happened to us, we're engaged in a creative act. We select details, organize events into a coherent narrative, add emotional emphasis. We're essentially creating a work of art based on raw material from lived experience. And there's something profoundly human in how our memories become more creative and less literal over time. That trip you took 10 years ago may have transformed, in your memory, into something more adventurous, more meaningful, more connected to your personal narrative than it perhaps was in reality. This isn't a memory failure, it's a feature. We're constantly rewriting our personal history in ways that help us understand who we are and where we're going. Creative memory also allows us to make connections between apparently unrelated experiences. When you have an inspiration or a moment of insight, it's often because your brain made an unexpected connection between different memories or areas of knowledge. It's as if your mind were constantly weaving new patterns with the threads of past experiences. There are fascinating studies showing how creativity can be enhanced through access to diverse and rich memories. People who have had varied experiences, who have traveled to different places, who have been exposed to diverse cultures often demonstrate greater creativity. This happens because they have a richer and more varied memory bank to recombine in new ways. Creative memory is also intimately linked to the ability to make analogies and metaphors. When you describe something new by comparing it to something familiar, that sound is like rain on dry leaves. You're using your memory creatively to create understanding and emotional connection. This metaphorical aspect of memory is fundamental to how we understand and communicate complex experiences. Much of our abstract thinking depends on our ability to use concrete memories as bridges to understand more abstract and complex concepts. There's a poetic irony in the fact that our memory, this extraordinary capacity that defines us as human beings, is also profoundly fragile and fallible. In an era where machines can store terabytes of information with perfect precision, human memory seems almost obsolete in its imprecision. But this fragility isn't a design flaw. It's precisely what makes human memory so rich, adaptive, and profoundly meaningful. Have you ever had the experience of being absolutely certain about a memory, only to discover later that it was incorrect? Maybe you vividly remembered being present at an event you later discovered you couldn't have witnessed, or a conversation that happened completely differently from how you recalled it. This malleability of memory, which might seem like a defect, is actually a fundamental adaptive characteristic. If our memories were literal and immutable records of the past, like photographs or recordings, we couldn't extract from them the general patterns and wisdom that help us navigate future situations. Memory's imprecision allows generalization, abstraction, and learning. When you remember how to solve a type of problem, you're not accessing an exact recording of every time you solve similar problems. Instead, you're accessing an abstract pattern, a distilled essence of multiple experiences that can be applied to new situations. Think of memory as an impressionist, not a photographer. An impressionist painter doesn't try to reproduce every exact detail of a scene, but captures its essence, its mood, its emotional quality. Similarly, our memory preserves not so much the raw facts of experience, but its meaning, its emotional relevance, its connection to our personal narrative. This impressionistic quality of memory is especially evident in our childhood memories. Specific details may be imprecise or even completely fabricated, but the emotional quality, the feeling of safety in parents' presence, the excitement of an adventure, the fear of a new experience remains authentic and influential. Human memory is also profoundly influenced by context and expectation. We don't remember events in a vacuum. We remember them through the lenses of our current knowledge, beliefs, and experiences. This means that every act of remembering is also an act of interpretation and reconstruction. There are fascinating studies showing how eyewitnesses to crimes can have sincerely vivid and detailed memories that are, nonetheless, factually incorrect. It's not that these people are lying. It's that human memory is an active reconstructive process, not a simple passive reproduction. But this fragility also has a profoundly beautiful and human dimension. It allows our painful memories to soften over time. our traumatic experiences to be gradually integrated and processed in ways that promote healing and growth. It also allows our positive memories to be enhanced and enriched, contributing to our capacity to experience gratitude, nostalgia, and joy. That golden memory of a childhood summer may not be literally accurate in all details, but its ability to evoke feelings of happiness and security is real and valuable. Memory's fragility is also what enables forgiveness. If we remembered forever, with total intensity and perfect precision, every hurt we've ever experienced, it would be impossible to move forward and build healthy relationships. The natural capacity of memory to soften and transform over time is what allows emotional healing and personal growth. And there's something profoundly democratic about the fragility of human memory. Rich or poor, powerful or humble, every person is subject to the same limitations and peculiarities of memory. We all experience forgetting, distortion, and the reconstructive nature of remembering. It's a shared fragility that connects us in our common humanity. In the digital age where every click, every message, every photo can be preserved indefinitely with perfect precision, there's something refreshing and liberating about the organic imprecision of human memory. It reminds us that we're not machines, that our value doesn't lie in factual precision, but in the ability to create meaning, connection, and wisdom from our experiences. Memory's fragility also teaches us humility. When we recognize that our own memories can be imprecise or biased, we become more empathetic to others' different perspectives. We understand that two people can have sincerely different memories of the same event, and both can be honest according to their own reconstructive experiences. There's also beauty in how memory's fragility connects us to our mortality. The fact that our memories aren't permanent, that they fade and transform over time, reminds us of the transitory nature of human existence. This can motivate us to live more fully in the present and value the experiences we have. Finally, memory's fragility invites us to be careful curators of our own experiences. Knowing that not everything will be remembered, we can choose to be more intentional about which experiences we value and how we live them. We can cultivate mindfulness, be more present, and intentionally create moments that are more likely to become meaningful memories. And here we arrive at the end of our journey through the labyrinths of memory, but in reality, we've only arrived at the beginning of a new understanding. Because now, in this present moment, as my words float to you, something extraordinary is happening. This experience we share, this intimate conversation about the mysteries of the mind, is transforming into memory even as it happens. Can you feel it? The sensation that something significant is being recorded, archived, woven into the complex tapestry of who you are. Every word that resonated with your experience, every insight that made you pause and reflect, every moment of wonder at the complexity and beauty of the human mind, all of this is being gently inscribed in the neural corridors of your consciousness. Memory, we've discovered together, is not a place where the past is stored, but a living process through which past, present, and future interweave in a continuous dance of meaning. Your memories of yesterday inform your experience of today, which in turn will influence your dreams of tomorrow. In this moment, you carry with you billions of fragments of experience, faces you've loved, places where you felt at home, moments of discovery and insights, instants of pure joy, periods of growth through difficulty. Each of these fragments was carefully selected, processed, and preserved by the extraordinary system we've explored together. You're not just a passive observer of this process, you're its active participant. At every moment, through the choices you make about where to direct your attention, how to interpret your experiences, and what stories to tell about your life, you're actively participating in the creation of who you are. Memory reveals a fundamental truth about human nature. We are temporal beings, existing simultaneously in the past we carry, the present we experience, and the future we imagine. Our identity isn't a fixed point, but a continuous narrative, always being written, always being rewritten. And there's something profoundly comforting in how memory connects our individual experience with humanity's collective experience. The same neural networks that allow you to remember a loving embrace also allowed Shakespeare to remember experiences he transformed into timeless sonnets. The same consolidation process during sleep that strengthens your personal memories also strengthened the memories of all the great thinkers, artists, and inventors in history. We're all participating in the same fundamental neural dance, all subject to the same laws of synaptic plasticity, all navigating the same delicate balance between remembering and forgetting. This connects us not just with each other, but with the entire lineage of human consciousness. As your mind prepares for rest, carrying with it tonight's reflections, remember that the approaching sleep isn't just a period of passive rest. It's a time of active work when your brain will carefully review, organize, and integrate the day's experiences. It's when fresh memories will be gently woven into the broader tapestry of who you are. Tomorrow, when you wake up, you'll be subtly different from who you are today. Not because something dramatic happened, but because the gradual accumulation of experience, processing, and integration constantly changes your mind's landscape. It's a process of continuous transformation, as natural as breathing, as constant as the beating of your heart. Perhaps in the days to come, you'll find yourself paying more attention to the small miracles of memory that constantly happen around you. Maybe you'll pause for a moment when forming a new memory, marveling at the extraordinary process through which a momentary experience transforms into a permanent part of who you are. Or maybe you'll simply carry with you a new appreciation for the complexity and beauty of the human mind, knowing that behind every thought, every memory, every dream, there's an orchestra of billions of neurons dancing in silent harmony. The journey we've taken together through memory's corridors reveals something fundamental about what it means to be human. We are creatures made of time, past transformed into present, present constantly being woven into future. Our memories aren't just records of what was. They're the seeds of what might yet come to be. Every memory you form is an act of hope, a bet that the future will be a place where these experiences will have meaning. Every moment of conscious attention is a contribution to your mind's living library, an addition to the collection of wisdom you'll carry with you through time. Memory teaches us that we're simultaneously authors and characters of our own stories. Through the choices we make about what to value, what to remember, and how to interpret our experiences, we're constantly writing and rewriting the narrative of who we are. And there's a beautiful responsibility in this. Knowing that you're the curator of your own memory collection, you can choose to be more intentional about the experiences you cultivate. You can choose to be more present, to value more deeply moments of connection and beauty, to intentionally create experiences that enrich your memory's treasure. The future of human memory is a story still being written. As our understanding of the brain deepens, as we develop new technologies that can interfere with or enhance memory, we face profound questions about what it means to preserve and alter human experience. But regardless of how technology evolves, the essence of human memory, its reconstructive nature, its emotional connection, its ability to create meaning from raw experience, will remain fundamentally human. It's a capacity that defines us as a species and connects each of us to the vast network of consciousness that extends across time and space. Thank you for accompanying me on this journey through memory's corridors. Thank you for your presence, your curiosity, your willingness to marvel with me at the mysteries of the mind. In sharing this experience, we've created something new, a shared memory that each of us will carry uniquely, interpret through our own lenses, and integrate into our own personal narrative. And now, as we say goodbye, I leave you with a final question to carry with you, a question that may blossom into insight in the quiet moments to come. If your memories are the threads with which you weave the tapestry of your identity, what kind of masterpiece of the soul do you choose to create with the precious materials of your lived experience?